Good morning, everyone. I'm going to give about another minute or two just for some more folks to get on the webinar, and then we'll go ahead and get started today. Thank you for joining us. Monique and Eddie, do you guys hear me okay still?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a little bit of an echo.
Okay.
Can you speak? Where does that hammering come from?
Huh?
There's some hammering. I'm hearing some hammering.
Hammering?
Yeah.
Like footsteps or something.
Footsteps or something, yeah.
It's probably in the building.
You have hard floors?
Yes.
That's what it is, then.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started today. So good morning, everyone. My name is Christopher Boyd. I'm with the Association of Arizona Food Banks. I'm joined by my colleague, Monique Cordova. She's based in Phoenix. I'm based in the Tucson area. We also have our guest speaker, Eddie Cruz from Peach Springs Unified School District available. We thank you all for joining us this morning. For those of you who would like to log this for 80 professional development credit, the code is 3130 for CEP. So this will be a pretty quick webinar. We want to give plenty of time for questions and answers at the end. We will have a representative from ADE available to answer your questions as well if you have some more technical questions. And so Monique and I will be talking a little bit about some of the basics of CEP and how to apply, and then Eddie Cruz will be giving his experience with the program. So that being said, we'll go ahead and jump right in. We ask that you please save your questions until the end of the webinar. There will be plenty of time to go ahead and type your questions in the question box. If the question box doesn't work for you, you can also try the chat box. So either one of those methods should work. So we'll go ahead and get started. So webinar goals for today, we'll go over some CEP basics of the program. We'll talk about the impact of CEP, the process for applying for CEP, which Monique will cover more extensively. Eddie Cruz will give his experience on being on the program, and then we'll open it up to questions at the end. So what is CEP? So CEP is the Community Eligibility Provision. It went nationwide in 2014, and the goal is to make it easier for schools to provide meals to kids that need it most. So it's free breakfast and lunches to all the kids in a school. And in addition to that, there's no need to collect free and reduced applications for this program once you've been approved. The program currently serves breakfast and lunch for 9.7 million kids in over 20,000 schools in the US. So how does a school become eligible for this program? So there's a couple, either a school or a district can apply for CEP, and it's not based on the free and reduced percentage, which a lot of people sometimes think it is. It's actually based on the identified student percentage. And so the identified student percentage needs to be at least 40% for you to be eligible for this program. An identified student percentage, a lot of people ask, well, what's that? And so it consists of low-income children who are certified for free school meals without the use of a household application. So there's a couple different ways that that can be accomplished. So the first system, which you're all pretty familiar with, is direct certification. So for example, if you have a child who has a family member on SNAP or TANF, they will oftentimes be in the system and can be cross-checked. And so that's a really good way. The department, I know, really works hard to try and encourage you guys to keep up on your direct certification numbers and check it multiple times a year, because the higher amount of directly certified kids you have, the more beneficial CEP is going to be for your district. So in addition to directly certified kids, there's also what are called categorically eligible students that would qualify in this ISP. And so that includes students who might be in foster care, who are homeless, migrant youth. Those would all fall under categorically eligible children. A requirement of CEP is that you also need to be operating the school breakfast program, not just the national school lunch program. So CEP impact, why does it matter? Why is it important? So if we look at some of the numbers here, we find that nearly 400,000 children in our state are food insecure. So they have difficulty accessing on a consistent basis healthy and nutritious meals. This means about 1 in 4 kids fall under this food insecure threshold according to Feeding America, which publishes the Map the Meal Gap statistics each year. And if you look to your right, you'll see more of a state map that shows by county what the childhood food insecurity rate is. You can see in the Maricopa and Pima areas that it's about 1 in 4 kids. And then you see in Yuma County and Apache County that it's as high as 1 in 3 kids. So clearly, food insecurity is a major issue in our state. And we're always looking for creative and innovative ways to solve food insecurity. And we feel strongly that CEP can be a very good choice in striving towards that goal. So students can count on getting healthy meals without the stigma of being a free lunch kid. We know that the free and reduced program is not perfect, and so CEP, it really takes that free and reduced metric out of the equation, treats everyone equally, puts them on the same playing field, and I think for a lot of students, they may feel uncomfortable having to go through the line saying that they're a free kid, in fear of being mocked by their peers, particularly older students. So that's why this can be such a great program. And we just know from research that children who get 2 meals a day, breakfast and lunch, tend to have better diets, fewer behavioral problems in school, higher levels of academic achievement, fewer days of missing school. So there's really a lot of benefits through children having 2 meals a day at school. And so who does CEP benefit? So obviously the families is the first one. They get 2 free meals a day for their children. They don't have to worry about cost of the meals. They also don't have to worry about unpaid meal debts piling up and how to deal with those. That can be difficult when you have a family of 5 or 6 kids and you're a hardworking mom with multiple jobs trying to pay for lunch for all your kids each day. That can really add up. And then obviously families not having to fill out a household income application can be a really valuable time saver for a lot of families. And schools can benefit from this because they can allocate their staff time more efficiently. We found through our surveys that many of the schools currently on CEP felt this was a huge benefit of the program. By not having to collect those free and reduced applications anymore, they can focus on other areas of their food services program. They don't have to account for unpaid meal debts. I know this is a hot topic right now, and I know it's an issue that a lot of school districts struggle with, is coming up with systems to account for unpaid meal debts. And with CEP, every student gets a free meal, so you don't have to worry about dealing with unpaid meal debts anymore. We also find that a lot of the schools that implement CEP have an easier time implementing an alternative breakfast model, such as breakfast in the classroom or grab and go. And these models both tend to raise participation for school breakfast. And obviously, as you schools know, more participation equals more reimbursement for your schools. So many of you might be thinking, who out there has adopted CEP in our state already? And so FRAC, the Food Research and Action Center, looks at this data nationally, and they found that Arizona was 37th in the nation with about 1 in 3 districts, eligible districts, adopting CEP in school year 2016-2017. And we define an eligible school district as a school district that has at least one eligible CEP school within it. So this includes approximately 100 districts and over 94,000 students in our state alone that are currently utilizing the CEP program. So there's already many schools out there in our state that are currently utilizing this program and finding it very beneficial. So the Association of Arizona Food Banks, where Monique and I currently are employed, looked at, we decided to conduct a survey, which we've done for the last couple of years, looking at schools that are currently on CEP. And we wanted to know, is this program really working for you guys? Is it benefiting you guys? Tell us about your experience on it. And so we surveyed about 19 districts or LEAs that were first-year adopters of CEP, and then 49 that have been adopters for 2 years or more. So about 68 districts in total. And we found that 97% of Arizona schools that adopted CEP are satisfied and were recommended to other schools. We also found that 79% of them said that they saw an increase in breakfast participation, and then another 81% in lunch participation. Many of these schools have some type of an alternative breakfast model in place. And CEP allows that flexibility because you can offer, by offering free meals, it makes it easier to implement these types of alternative breakfast programs. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Monique now, who's going to talk a little bit about the application process for CEP.
Thank you, Chris. I'll now explain the federal and the state process associated with applying for CEP and direct you to some helpful resources as well. So first, I'd like to cover some key dates. April 1st is a critical date. This is a date on which the school district, a group of schools, or an individual school must establish its eligible identified student percentage, or ISP, for determining CEP eligibility and the claiming percentages. So as Chris mentioned earlier, eligibility to apply for CEP is directly related to the percentage of students who are eligible for free school meals without the use of an application. So on April 15th, the state agencies, such as the Arizona Department of Education are required to notify local education agencies, LEAs, of district-wide eligibility status. By this date, they're also collecting individual school site ISP data. And then on May 1st, state agencies such as ADE will then post a official list, CEP notification, on their website that shows the LEA level ISPs and the school level ISPs. And that list is publicly available, and it's on ADE's website. So it's at this point that the application process will begin in earnest. So the next critical date, which is going to approach very fast, is June 30th. So this is the due date for LEAs to notify state agencies of their intent to participate in CEP. For the last 3 years, the federal government, USDA, has granted extensions through August 31st, but that is not the case this year. So June 30th is the date that you must communicate your intent to ADE that you want to participate in CEP. Okay. All right. One of the things that changes if you adopt CEP are how you are your claiming percentages. So it's now based on your approved ISP multiplied by a factor of 1.6. So here are some examples here of how the claiming percentages would change with different ISP levels. So if you have an approved ISP that is 62.5 or higher, you will be able to claim all of your meals at 100% at the free rate. So the lower that ISP, then the lower you'll be able to claim at the free rate, and whatever is the remainder you will claim at the paid rate. So under the CEP system, there are no more reduced price rates. It's just free and paid. There are some helpful resources to know how the changes could affect your revenues. One is a CEP estimator, and we're providing a link here that where you can get a copy of the estimator to run some scenarios for your schools. So it's very helpful. It's an Excel spreadsheet. It will help you run your numbers. So how do you apply? The first thing you want to do is read the Department of Education's official guidance memo. And there are also 3 forms that you're going to have to sign. There's a CEP participation form, and then there are 2 policy statements. One is the free and reduced price policy statement, and there's an addendum to that statement that is for CEP. So sign those forms. And then another form that you will need to complete is a CEP eligibility worksheet. And you will also need to complete a CEP online course and pass the test. You'll need to answer 8 out of 10 questions correctly after you go through the course. So the CEP eligibility worksheet that you'll need to complete, it lets you identify how you want to apply for CEP. You can apply as a district, a group of schools, or as individual sites. And so you'll need to identify that information on the correct tab on this spreadsheet, and you'll need to enter the enrollment and ISP information as of April 1st. The CEP online course, as I mentioned, you'll need to take the course. It'll take you about an hour to get through. It's on ADE's website. When you get to the end of the course, answer 8 of 10 questions correctly, and then the ADE specialist will grade it and send a certificate to you. So once you complete those forms, take the course, you'll need to send those forms over to ADE at this email address, or you can go a little old school and fax the forms to this fax number, Attention CEP Coordinator. So once those forms have been submitted, the next step will be your ISP data validation. You'll need to submit student enrollment and ISP data securely in accordance with the guidance memo instructions. ADE will email you a secure email link. If you have any questions during this process, ask your ADE specialist for help. We have made the guidance memo, the forms, and the CEP online course available on our website on this page identified here. There's a URL. And of course, these forms also are available at ADE's Health and Nutrition Services web pages. Here is both a belong address, and we also created a shorter URL for folks to access this same web page. And with that, I'll hand it back to Chris, who will introduce our speaker.
Thanks, Monique. So I will go ahead and hand it over now to Eddie Cruz. He is the Food Services Director with Peach Springs Unified School District, and he's going to talk a little bit about his experience on the CEP program.
Thank you, Chris. I'd like to say good morning to everyone. My name is Eddie Cruz. I'm actually the accounts payable here at Peach Springs Unified School District, but I wear many hats here, including the School Nutrition Director's hat, the Kitchens Manager's hat, purchasing, receiving, and a few others. I'm glad all of you made it to this very important seminar that, if successful in applying, will free up a lot of your time to concentrate on other things other than paperwork. You may ask, why CEP? It is because CEP will enable your school to offer all enrolled students breakfast and lunch at no charge without collecting a single household application. You know what that means, right? No more countless hours processing those household applications. And yes, no more upsetting phone calls to parents as to why this year they have to pay full or partial payment every school day for their children's meals. What else is eliminated under CEP? You know, all the other paperwork that everyone needs to go to a seminar to learn how to complete them, such as how to process household applications, how to complete the BIDs, those are no longer needed. And that thick binder of household applications that we're supposed to assemble every year and keep for 5 years, the one we have to categorize as free, reduced, denied, who is foster, whose case number, how many SNAP, how many TANF, no longer needed. And of course, our duties, the other duties that keep us tied up in the daily is the daily tracking of meals by free, reduced and paid. This task under CEP is no longer needed as well. So going back to the question, why CEP? The simple answer is why not? If it's saving you time and effort in completing all this paperwork. Let's talk about the application process. First step, if you must take the Community Eligibility Provision online course and pass the quiz. And don't be scared by the quiz, you'll be fine. Step 2, contact your NSLP specialist. They are a very good source. My NSP program specialist, Idle McGee, and of course Jessica Gibbs are the two wonderful people who guided me through the whole process last year in applying for CEP. How long is the CEP process? Actually, that depends on how organized you are in your records and how fast you can gather the information ADE needs to process your application. Let's talk about some of those records and information that you need to submit to ADE. Prior to being approved for CEP participation, you will need to submit your school's identified student percentage and the number of enrolled students, and this information will need to be validated by ADE. In order to do this, on April 1st or thereabouts, you need to run direct certification to determine the number of identified students compared to the total enrolled students that same month to figure out your school's identified student percentage. You need to provide ADE the following. 1, all the CNP direct certification results showing all student matches, and you have to submit all the DC match and no match list that you conducted up to April 1st. Number 2, a list that shows other students who are not on the DC match list, but that they are directly certified because they are on a household extension. For example, siblings of a student who is a match. Number 3, FDIR letters if you have them. Number 4, homeless, migrant, and runaway list. Number 5, Head Start or pre-K if you have them in school. You need to submit their enrollment rosters as well. Number 6, documents for foster students. And number 7, total enrollment list of as of April 1st to show how you determined your enrollment number. On this list, do not include withdrawn students in the count. What does CEP do for our district, which is my district? And it is basically simplify our records keeping and reporting requirements. For example, on our daily task. Number 1, we still count the total number of reimbursable meals taken at the point of service, but since everyone is free, there's no more tracking of who is free, reduced, or paid. Number 2, we still do the daily edit checks to make sure that we do not exceed the daily student attendance in our count. On our monthly task, we still claim the total number of reimbursable meals served in a simplified form. What I meant by simplified form is that you do not have to gather numbers as to how many was served free, how many was served reduced, how many was paid, etc., etc. You only need to answer 3 things. Number 1, number of days served. Number 2, number of free meals served. Number 3, number of participants enrolled. Save and submit. On our annual task, number 1, instead of sending the parents outreach letter, we send them a letter that we are offering free meals to every student that are enrolled in our school. Number 2, we no longer notify the public of free school meal availability because instead we let the whole community know that the free meals are now available to all enrolled students. Number 3, we still have to submit a verification summary report around January or so, but instead of trying to answer 64 questions on the verification form, we only have to input 4 things. Section 1 and 2, number of schools under CEP and total number of students. Number 3, you answer it no. Section 5-1, you answer it yes, and you are done. Number 4, and lastly, we do and still run direct certification on around April 1st annually for reporting to ADE, though once approved, we are good for 4 years. To give you an example, my ISP, when I signed up, was approved for 70.4. Now, this year, if my ISP is down like 57, 40, whatever, then I can still use 70.4 as my percentage. That means it's good for 4 years, this next 4 years. I just want to clarify that. Thank you for listening, and I hope that I help you in any way. Good luck in submitting your applications. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Eddie. I appreciate it. So we're going to go ahead and open it up now for questions. If you folks can, please go ahead and type your questions into the question box, and then I'll go ahead and field them and read each one out loud. I'm also going to have Jessica Gibbs available from Arizona Department of Education to answer any questions, and she will be happy to assist you as well, along with Eddie Cruz. Jessica, are you available? Jessica, are you available? Are you there?
Hello?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay,
awesome.
It is working.
Great. Wonderful. Okay, so folks, feel free to ask your questions, and we have folks standing by to answer those for you. Please do type those in the chat box. Okay, so the first question that we have here, Eddie mentioned that on April 1st of each year we have to calculate the ISP, or did I misunderstand? If so, if all students are counted as free, how can we determine our new ISP? I am confused about this. Thanks. Jessica, do you want to answer that?
Yes. So basically what happens is when you're on your CEP cycle, so say you're in year 1 and you're operating CEP, you're still going to run that direct certification 1 time a year on or around the April 1 date, so that's how you're going to collect the information. So you run the direct certification and you're going to count your matched students and then extend the eligibility to the household members for those SNAP and TANF matches. So that's going to be the start of the process of counting your identified students while you're on the CEP cycle. You start there, and then you're also going to include those foster with notice to provider letters, any court documents for foster students. Students on FDPIR applications would also be included in that count. Your Head Start roster list, your homeless migrant liaison list. All of those students are going to be included in the identified student count during your CEP cycle, which you're required to recalc every year on or around April 1st. Okay? So does that make sense as far as how we do that during?
So Vanessa, feel free to respond back. Oh, she said yes, thanks. So great. Next question. I ran a state match on March the 28th, so do I use that information for my CEP application?
Yes. So you can actually use any direct certification matches that you get from the beginning of a school year up to the April 1 point. So if you have a direct certification, for example, from August, and you have matches on that list, you're going to look at your enrollment from your on or around April 1, and you're going to see who's enrolled. And if you have a match for that student would then be deemed an identified student. So the only caveat there is that you have to make sure the student is still enrolled if you're using an older list. But you can absolutely use that March list, which we recommend, rerunning on or around the April 1 so you can catch additional matches if there are.
so the next question on here, unfortunately, I missed the first 15 minutes. Are there examples of financial analyses using CEP for different levels of direct certification percentages?
I can take this one as well, Chris. So I think what you would want to do is, whatever school site you're from, you would take a look at your identified student percentage, and then you would times by that 1.6 multiplier to see your free and your paid reimbursement rates. Okay, but if you do want to take a look at some of the data for, say they're at 55% ISP or they're lower than that, we can absolutely take a look at your individual school and see how the financials are going to look. But I don't think that it's available on this actual webinar, but we can get you some resources on the financial piece from ADE. So I don't know if you want me to provide my email, or maybe Chris, you can provide that to the person who asked the question.
Okay, thanks. Jessica, do you have any advice? I know there's some larger public school districts that might be on the call. Do you have any advice for grouping of schools, or any tips that you can provide some of the larger districts as they're looking into grouping possibilities?
Sure. So I would just say to utilize the CEP estimator tool as best as you can to look at the different groupings. You're going to want to use your highest ISP sites and pull in those lower ISP sites and group together that way. We're seeing, the higher ISP is going to bring up, obviously, the lower ISP, because the way that the calculation is for the groups, you're going to take the identified students and you're going to divide by the enrollment. So you would take the sum of the one or more sites of all of their identified kids over the enrollment of those total sites as well. So that's kind of how the grouping formula works. And then we would plug in the identified students, the enrollment, and all of the financial information for the sites into that estimator tool to determine, if it's going to be a good fit financially. But as far as grouping, you'll pull those higher ISP sites and group them with the lower to see where you're at after that occurs, and then just keep kind of playing with the tool to see how you can maximize your ISP. You want to get the highest possible, and you also want to look at your enrollments, because if you have more kids at a certain site and you want to make sure that you're getting those kids the meals, then you also want to look at your enrollment, and we can help with that as well at ADE.
Great, thank you. The next question is, will this webinar be available to listen to at a later date? I missed the beginning. The answer is yes, we're recording this right now, so we will post that and provide you with a link for that, and then you can also download the slides as well. We'll have that available for you. Next question, can you repost the links to the forms? Yes, I can go back in that slide real quick and put that information. So it should be right there for you. That should have all the forms on our website. All right.
The pages where the forms are available.
Correct.
Yes, these are, yes. So we've made them available. This is Monique. We've made them available on our website, and of course they're also available on the Department of Education's website.
Yep. All right, so the next question that we have is, who is the main contact for CEP, or do we use our specialist?
Yes.
Jessica, do you want to answer that one?
Sure. You guys can do either or. If you've got a simple question about CEP, like you're looking for a form, go ahead and contact your specialist. But otherwise, if it's something more in-depth, like you're wondering about the outcome of your estimator tool or other detailed questions, go ahead and contact either Corey Hensley or myself, Jessica Gibbs, and we can get those in-depth questions answered for you, because we will be the two specialists that are going to be processing the CEP applications. So we're here to answer your questions. And I'm just going to give my email now. It's Jessica, jessica.gibbs, Gibbs, @azed.gov. If you want to send me an email, my phone number is also 602-542-4815.
Great, thanks, Jessica. The next question that came in, someone asked, we're already on a special provision, so how much more beneficial is CEP for districts like us that are already high, free, and reduced?
Okay, I can take this question as well. So what we're going to do is we would look at your free and reduced percentage based on the most recent report, and then we're going to compare it to the ISP that from the most recent April, so it'd be April 2017 at this point. And then we would, if you're already on the provision 2 or 3, we would pull all of your claims for the entire program year and compare it to, basically the tool would do the work. The estimator tool is going to compare provision 2 revenues versus what you would receive under the community eligibility. So we could look at that at the site-based, or, you know, pulling in multiple sites. So there's a way to look at that, and it's that CEP estimator tool. So we've pulled a couple of provision 2 and, well, I don't know about provision 3, but we've pulled quite a few provision 2 schools off and moved to CEP because we found that, you know, it was more beneficial, but we've also seen the opposite as well. So you want to use that tool in order to determine which provision would be best for your school. And then you'll also want to think about, you know, your enrollment and if it's, you know, if it's changing, if it's staying stable. So, you know, there's some other things to take in consideration as well, and we can take those on, you know, case-by-case basis.
Next question. We're told that a recent training that during our first year of CEP, we have to send out households a form they have to complete for LCFF purposes. Is this accurate?
Okay, so I think this district is referring to maybe an alternate income form, that they're collecting the income eligibility information via some other form outside of the meal program. If that's the case, schools do have the option of collecting income information from families. Some schools require it, some do not. So it just depends on how the district wants to handle collecting the information. So we do have a couple of resources, and most of the time when they're doing this, it's for purposes of like Title I, other grants, E-rate, maybe like the grant programs for, like, you know, backpack programs and things, discounts on school books. So some schools are opting to collect the income information, and I have more information on the CEP webpage, on the AD website, which talks about you know, ways that schools can collect this information, because as you know, when you're operating the community eligibility provision, you are not required to pass out the household applications. You're actually prohibited from doing it as part of the meal program if you're operating the provision at a site. If you're operating CEP, you cannot collect that information. That's not allowed. So, you know, to get that information, again, some schools do utilize an alternate income form. So I don't know the exact situation with the school, but some schools are, you know, collecting that, but it has to be outside of the meal program if you're operating CEP.
Great, thanks.
So for more information on that, contact me, please.
Great. And Jessica, would you mind in the chat box putting your email address? I think there are some folks who didn't get a chance to write it down.
Yeah, sure. Sweet.
Thank you. Awesome. The next question on here is, can you go over what you need for supporting documentation again? So would you mind clarifying, are you talking about the initial documentation that you need to submit to AD, or are you talking about the supporting documentation afterwards with respect to validating your ISP? Okay, it looks like they want more clarification on the documentation that needs to be submitted to have their ISP validated. Jessica, can you go a little bit over that again?
Sure. So whenever you calculate your identified student percentage, you're going to have the documentation that you use to actually come up with those identified student and those enrollment counts that you provide. So what we want to see is anything that you utilized. So example for your enrollment count, we would need your roster from your school with at least the first name and last name, so that we're able to see that those students were enrolled. And then along with that, we're going to need the identified student documentation. So that's going to consist of your direct certification list. So the output, that can be in an Excel document with the match status. That can be in paper format that you printed off. It would just need to be from our system. That would be number one. So that's going to show your SNAP and your TANF, your migrant, and your foster students matches. So that's number one. We're also going to ask that you send any, say you have a Head Start group of kids that you included as identified. You would send your Head Start enrollment list. Let's see, any other documentation that you used, your foster, court papers, any notice to providers that you have on file, anything that you use to come up with those counts, we would actually need to have here to validate those figures as per USDA guidance. So the state agency actually validates it for you up front, and then when we know that everything is correct, we go ahead and lock you in for the 4 years under that rate. So that process, I do want to note, when you send everything, it's going to be done over a secure server, so we won't be sending any protected information via email. So keep that in mind. So we send you a comprehensive list of what we need, and you can go through and see if it applies to you, and you can say, okay, I did use this group of kids, I did use these letters, and then you can go ahead and collect everything and send it to us via the secure server that we request from you, okay?
Okay, great. I'm looking on here for any other questions. There's a couple of people that have their hands raised. For those of you who raised your hands, can you type your question into the chat box? See if you can try to do that first. We have a lot of people on the call, so I know sometimes when there's a lot of people trying to speak at once, it can mess up the audio a little bit. So if you can type your question into the question or chat box, and then we'll do our best to answer that for you. All right, I'm going to give about another minute or so. If you guys have any other questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat box. I did just post Jessica and Corey's emails. I think they might have gone in the question box. I also posted them in the chat box for those of you who couldn't see them. So. Jessica, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, great. One question I had is just to clarify for schools for that June 30th deadline, do they need to have their entire application completed, or how much of it needs to be done prior to that June 30th date?
Okay, so as long as you received the application documents, so that would include the participation form, which is the CEP, basically the contract between ADE and the LEA, to operate the community eligibility provision. The worksheet, the training has been taken. All of the upfront application documents, as long as we have those, we will accept them. The supporting documentation we can do after that if you guys decide to elect on, June 30. So we will still accept the applications up to that date. The supporting documentation we do not have to have by that date. Okay,
great. Someone asked a question, can we add a school in the middle of the year to CEP? I believe the answer is no. Is that correct, Jessica?
Yes, unfortunately, we don't have that mid-year election available as of now. So you would have to apply by the June 30 in order to be considered for CEP in the 2017-28 school year.
All right, I'm waiting to see if there's any more questions here coming through. I don't see any right now, but I'll give a couple more moments and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. All right, here's one. Once you apply for CEP, are you obligated to do CEP for the full 4 years? So that is a great question. And if Jessica, there's anything you want to add to this, you can, but I would just say that at any point you are allowed to discontinue CEP as long as you notify the department within a certain amount of time. But as far as I know, you can get off of CEP virtually any time you'd like during the program. Is there anything you want to add to that, Jessica?
Yes, so schools can come off the CEP at any time. You would just be required to still provide the children the 30 days of meals at no cost while you're collecting that income information to start providing the meals then at the free, reduced, and paid eligibility. So yes, you can come off at any time.
Yeah, no, that's a good question because I do know a lot of schools are worried. They start CPO, what if it's not working out for us, and are we stuck with it for the next 4 years? And no, you can come off the program and you won't be penalized for it.
This is Monique. I'd like to add something along those lines. The survey that we conducted, where we had the 97% satisfaction rate, the person who, and I don't think it was that they were dissatisfied, but the reason they had the reasons for dropping off a CEP, and they returned to the provision program. They just preferred it better.
All right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. We want to thank you guys so much for your time today. We have Monique and I's contact information there if you need to get in touch with us. Jessica and Corey, we also published their information in the chat box for you guys if you have more technical questions. We really hope that many of you take a close look into this program and see if it's the right fit for you guys this year. We hope that it is for many of your schools, and Monique and I have found through our surveys that many schools are satisfied with the program and feel like it's a great benefit to both the schools and the students and the families. So we thank you again. If you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to one of us, and best of luck in your application process. And Jessica and Eddie, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everyone.